Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Chemistry of Essential Oils Zoom class. I'm so glad that everybody could make it tonight, and this is just some fascinating information. I know that I'm a geek, but I like to also give this information about essential oils in a way that everybody can understand. So I'm super passionate about this information. If you do have any questions, please write them down and we can talk about that at the end of our time together. And let's just go ahead and get started here. So just a little bit about me. I am a microbiologist, and I worked in a medical laboratory for the majority of my life. And I found out about these amazing essential oils about 5 years ago. And I really have a passion now to be able to share this natural form of health and wellness. So what my job was I was the one that worked back in the laboratory who got to look at all of the blood and the urine and anything that comes out of the human body. That's what I got to do. So I worked at this microscope a lot. I did the chemistry tests, I did hematology, and I did a lot of microbiology as well. So it's just kind of innate in me that I really, really love science. A part of course, microbiology is one of my faves, but also cellular biology is really, really strong. That was kind of like, I almost had my minor in chemistry as well. So as we go through this, I'm going to be talking about chemistry, but also that cellular biology that goes along with that as well. I do want to just put up a disclaimer. Essential oils don't prevent, treat, or cure anything. God made our bodies to be an amazing healing machine. And so these essential oils are really, it's the right stuff to be able to help our bodies to be able to do what they're supposed to do naturally. So as a wellness advocate, I can't diagnose anything. I can't prescribe anything. I can suggest things that might work well. And that's where you might hear some of those things tonight. But really, what is going to prevent disease is nutrition and exercise and rest and stress management and reducing your toxic load. And essential oils help us in all of these categories so that we really can have that right stuff that's going to facilitate healing, health and wellness, vitality, and energy in the body. So this is kind of fascinating to think about where our essential oils come from. Essential oils are nature's ultimate protector and stress management tool. So when we think about an essential oils come from the root, the stem, the bark, the leaves, the flowers of the plant. And in order for us to get most of these essential oils, we actually have to have death of the plant. So we have to cut that plant. And think about when you take a cutting off of a plant, or when a plant gets injured, like a tree. So we get frankincense resin by really injuring that tree. And what happens is that plant has that kind of sap come up, or that sticky part on a plant, like after you cut off a flower off of a cutting. And that actually contains the healing properties of the oil to heal that plant in that area. So essential oils are distilled from these cut plants that are responding to that death. I know that sounds kind of morbid, but it's really true. These plants give their lives for us. And the oils that are produced during that injury are the most potent oils that the plant can possibly release. So when those plants are cut, some plants have to sit in the field for a couple of days for the oils to be the most potent. And some of them they need to distill right away. But that's what doTERRA does very well. It knows each plant species specifically and when those oils are going to be the most potent for them to be distilled from the plant material. So these gifts that are extracted from the injury and the death of that plant, they actually are like the stress hormones of the plant, because there's no more, everything in our body. So when we have an injury or when we're facing a death kind of thing, those stressors in our body actually form those healing things, those healing properties in us come to the surface to help us to heal, just like they do in a plant. So what that's going to do is those plant oils are going to help us fight our own human stressors physiologically, from a behavioral perspective, and at the cellular level. high in antioxidants. They protect DNA from damage. They protect cell membranes from damage. They calm and they soothe and they repair injured tissues, among other things. So I'm going to talk about this in depth in just a couple of slides, but all essential oils are made up from very, very small molecules. And these essential oils, because of the way that they are collected from the plant, they work similarly in animals, in us, in humans, because we have a shared biochemistry with plants, and our tissues actually react the same way to the essential oils in our bodies, similarly as they will in a plant. So those oils are all made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Some of them have a couple of other things thrown in there, but those are the basic three. And the human body is primarily made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, which makes us organic, right? Anything that is carbon-based is an organic life form. So what these things can do for us is they're antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, anti-tumoral. They're stimulating to the immune system, very, very high in antioxidants. Vasodilators, which means they increase the size of the blood vessels, which increases the circulation into an area. And we know when that happens, that increased circulation, a lot of times healing can occur because the properties that are in our blood that helps us to heal can get to those areas better. They help to relieve stress. They're repairing and they oxygenate the tissues. They help to balance mood. They balance brain chemistry, muscle relaxation. They promote cell death. And what I mean by that is we have old, dead, dying cells that need to die and we need to get rid of them. And this is called apoptosis. And essential oils are fantastic at increasing this cell death and getting rid of the bad stuff and regenerating the new stuff again. And essential oils do so much more than this. I just can't go into everything. Now, keep this in mind. And again, I'm going to go into the adulteration of essential oils and how that happens from a chemical perspective as well. But essential oils can be synthesized and adulterated. And these types of essential oils will not provide these same kind of benefits for you because they don't have a life force in them. And there is the chemistry just doesn't match our bodies. So these essential oils that are actually from doTERRA, that are from botanical materials, the highest quality in the world, with no synthesized products in them, you will never ever find any other essential oils like this on the market at all. Your essential oils are extremely concentrated. I mean, this graphic just blows me away. So essential oils in one drop of essential oil, it has about 40 million trillion molecules. Okay, do you remember me saying that molecules are like really, really small? So when I'm talking about really, really small, think about one drop of essential oil and there's 40 million trillion of something in there. So the average human body has 100 trillion cells in the body. So if you used one single drop of grapefruit and it was just shared over every single cell in your body, which doesn't really happen in reality, but if it was shared, every single cell in your body would receive 40 million molecules. I mean, that's crazy to think about. So that's why diluting your essential oils and only using a small amount of essential oils is actually what is preferred. You don't need to douse yourself in lavender to go to sleep. A couple of drops is going to be enough to be able to help you do that. And essential oils are also very, very complex, which means they have many different molecular compounds in each one of them, and they react differently in the body. So this diverse chemistry creates many, many positive effects in the body, and each oil is going to serve a different purpose. Okay, there's more than one oil that is going to promote the level of wellness that you desire. And now when we talk about this diversity of chemistry, there's just, you know, like I have that graphic at the bottom where frankincense contains over 65 different distinct compounds in various quantities. In just that one drop of frankincense, you have 65 different molecular compounds. And there's, what did we just say? 400 billion trillion of those things. I mean, it's just amazing to think how much chemistry is in one drop of essential oil. So now when you add that kind of chemistry to my specific chemistry in my body, or your specific chemistry in your body, that oil may not affect you the same way that it affects me. However, most of these, we can give really good recommendations about how these oils are going to affect you because we know the properties that they have and what they do in the body. So don't be afraid to experiment with your oils. They are safe, they are effective, but sometimes you might need to experiment just a little bit to find out what's going to be best for you. This is an example of the complexity that's in essential oils. Lavender. It's super good for skin repair and healing. If you ever have any kind of a skin abrasion, or let's say you're out in the sun a little bit too long and you use lavender essential oil, it is going to be very, very good for repairing that skin. Okay? It's also very calming. It's soothing to the nervous system. Very, very good for breast health. It's an immune system booster. It's a natural antihistamine, and it has natural antibacterial qualities as well. So you look at this one oil, and if you were going to the doctor and you were going to get a pharmaceutical medication, you would get a different medication for each one of these specific conditions. However, lavender can do it all. It really can, because it has this complex chemistry in it. And when you use that one drop of oil, all of those chemicals are going throughout your body and they are doing different things. And even though you might not use it as an antihistamine, your lavender, it actually is going into your body and helping with that histamine response in your body, even though you don't even know that that's happening. So that is why just one single essential oil can help with so many different health issues. This is kind of a fascinating little slide here about how we obtain essential oils from plants. The vast majority of essential oils are through steam distillation. Now, when I'm talking about the vast majority of doTERRA essential oils are through steam distillation. So the highest quality essential oils in the world are, the only thing that we use is water. Basically steam is, hot water that runs up through this plant material. So you can see here, this is like a boiler. This is full of water here, and it gets heated up, and then that steam comes up and it goes through this plant material. Now, in this right here, the second vat here is just absolutely packed with plant material, as much plant material as they can get in there. And then that steam comes up and it runs through these tubes and it goes through these coils here, and these coils cool it. And then that oil and water together drop down in here. And we all know that water and oil don't mix. So the oil comes to the surface, and these distillation places just pull off that pure 100% essential oil right here in this vat. Citrus oils are a little bit different, and they are cold pressed from the rind of the fruit. So what they will do is they take these fruits and they actually rub them up kind of like we would zest a lemon or a lime. And then they take that material, that fruit is sprayed, and all of that zest material then goes into a centrifuge, and that essential oil comes out that way. And then the third way to do it is through solvent extraction. And the only essential oil that we can buy that through solvent extraction is the jasmine. And it's because of the leaves of, or the flowers of the jasmine flower. The flowers of jasmine are so, they're just so volatile, they're so fragile that steam distillation would kill the essential oils in them. So it's a different way in which they do that. And I've also been asked, why don't we have a vanilla essential oil? That would be so awesome. And it's because this is vanilla, actually, when you get the essential oil, has to go through this solvent extraction, which for vanilla, it's probably going to be with like an alcohol that pulls the oil out of the beans, but it's very, very expensive. And therefore, it would just be not cost effective to be able to have a vanilla oil. We have talked about certified pure therapeutic grade, or the CPTG, but I think that we just kind of throw that term around without really knowing what that means or the science that goes behind this CPTG. But what CPTG means is that these essential oils are pure and safe. And that's easy to say, but what's behind that? What's behind these most beneficial essential oils in the world? Well, we know that with CPTG, our scientists have figured out what is the best plant species. There's like 36 different varieties of lavender. Which lavender is going to be the most beneficial for essential oils? And then that plant needs to be grown in the best soil in the world, in the right climate for that plant to be grown effectively, and then harvested at the perfect time to create that essential oil. Then after that harvest happens, it needs to be distilled at the perfect temperature with exactly the right pressure for the right amount of time to release the highest quality essential oil in the world. There are no fillers, there's no additives, there's no adulterations ever in any doTERRA essential oil. In fact, I remember a couple of years ago, the Roman chamomile fields just, there was like, I think it rained heavily, and so the Roman chamomile just wasn't what they wanted it to be that year. So actually we went 6 months without any Roman chamomile because doTERRA was not going to put that out on the market. So just know that they're not going to give us any kind of essential oils that are going to be less than the CPTG grade. That really, it's the market standard now, and doTERRA has created that. There's never any herbicides or pesticides ever used on the plant. So this is like organic plus 1,000, okay? Ever, ever, ever. We will never use pesticides or herbicides. And then there's a huge battery of rigorous testing. I can't even remember how many tests, but lots of tests. And I was at doTERRA just a couple of months ago and went through these medical testing labs, and it just goes on and on and on forever about how much testing goes on there at doTERRA Corporate. And then, of course, co-impact sourcing. And this is super important, not only from a perspective of science and really what is best as a company, but it's what's best for our world, because we're giving back to society. We don't own our own fields. So we actually pay the farmers that have been on these fields in third world countries and all over the world to be able to like rent their property and farm those fields for us. And then they give those farmers what they really should be earning on those plants. Then there's third-party testing. So doTERRA does not do its own testing. They send these essential oils off to a non-biased third-party testing lab who does that for us. So our CPTG oils are distilled properly, and what this does is this preserves these hundreds and hundreds of different molecules that are really absent from food-grade oils. Because in food-grade oils, like I was out at the peppermint fields last year, and they were actually, the peppermint they were distilling the day that we were there was not for doTERRA. It was actually it was spearmint that they were distilling. It was actually for wintergreen, for Wrigley's spearmint gum. And it smelled way different than the spearmint that we have, because that plant was grown, it was actually harvested at a different time than they would harvest it for a spearmint essential oil. So just know that it is important to know the science and also the botany behind these amazing oils that we have so that they work well in our bodies. I want to talk a little bit here about adulteration, and I know that there's a lot on this slide. But there is a lot going on in our world right now with the adulteration of essential oils. And doTERRA has really started a firestorm of people using essential oils. And these companies have caught on to this. And they just can't, from a perspective of the growth and the science behind doTERRA and this huge ball that doTERRA has rolling now, these companies just can't keep up with the science and the purity and the quality of what doTERRA is doing. So a lot of times they will adulterate, or they will stretch their essential oils, which extends them, these genuine essential oils that they have, so that they can increase their profits. And also what they'll do is add things to those essential oils to standardize it, which means one of the tests that they do is called gas chromatography. And it has all these little spikes in it, that when your essential oil has exactly the right spikes in it, that means that you have a high quality, good essential oil, and it has that therapeutic value that we want. But what these companies are doing is If it doesn't have quite enough limonene in it, or if it doesn't have quite enough beta-pinene in it, what they'll do is they'll add just that one synthetic thing to make it look like it's a super good essential oil, when in reality, that is a chemical that they've added. It's not even from the botanical material. So there's a lot of different ways that they can do this. So just because a bottle says 100% pure essential oil, you still can't be guaranteed of what you're getting in that bottle. I trust our company. I trust doTERRA. I've met the owners. I've seen the chemistry that goes on. And I know that they're not going to put out a product that is not going to be 100% pure and up to the standards that they created. So here's a couple of ways that companies can adulterate essential oils. One is called aromatic adulteration. And what they do is just what I said. They will take these individual chemicals, they can either be natural or synthetic, but they add them to the oil. And what happens is when they add that synthetic or that extra, it affects the aroma of that oil, and it specifically affects how it's going to react in your body. So that therapeutic value is just going to be a little bit off, okay? And then we have the addition of carrier oils. Now, doTERRA adds carrier oils to our touch oils. There's also carrier oil in Balance and a couple other, but they tell us about that. They say this carrier oil is in there because this is the only way that we can get it to you, and we've already pre-diluted this for you. But what these other essential oil companies are doing is they're watering down, literally, I mean, not literally with water, but with a carrier oil, but then they don't tell you that they have done that. So you are already, you know, with the oils that we have, you get to make the pure positive dilutions that you want to make because you know it's a 100% pure essential oil. And then another thing they can do is add similar oils or isolates to that oil. So lavender is a cheaper form of lavender essential oil. It smells like lavender, but it doesn't have the same chemical properties in the body at all. So they can add that to it, and also synthetic fragrances and chemicals. So whenever you see that there's a fragrance, that it's a lavender fragrance, you certainly are not getting an essential oil in that spray, that soap, that lotion, whatever you're using. So now, knowing how these producers can adulterate these oils really, really can change the way that we buy our essential oils and the way that we tell others about essential oils. In fact, you guys, there are essential oils out there on the market today that's a 100% pure essential oil, and they are a pure fabrication. They are made up by perfumists in a laboratory. Those are actually chemists who put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and it smells like lemon, it smells like lavender, and honestly, they don't. I smelled a frankincense the other day that I'm like, are you serious? I mean, once you smell a doTERRA essential oil against any other thing that has an adulteration, you can really, really tell what the genuine article is. And I suggest that you do that next time you go into a grocery store or somebody has a different brand of essential oils. Go have a smell off with your friend with another company. It really is pretty fascinating. All right, here's my biochemistry self. Oh my gosh, cellular biology. You guys, this is so much fun. Every one of the cells in our body, which we've already said the average human body has about 100 trillion cells, they are all like this little city, okay? There is a nucleus inside of this little city in here, and this is where the government is. You know, your DNA is in here, and this is where you know, the kind of that governing body of all of your cells and the makeup of who you are resides. We've got these wonderful mitochondria, and the mitochondria, you hear a lot about that with doTERRA because these are your energy centers. So there's two ways that the body creates energy. One is through the breakdown of sugars in the body, and the other one is through an increase in oxygen. So that's why when your body needs oxygen, or when your body needs energy, you're going to crave sugar. But a better way to do that is go out for a walk, okay? And you're going to increase that as well because of all of these things that happen on the inside of this cell. But here's what's really cool. This is your cell membrane right here. So this blue part on the outside of this is a big blow-up model of what the outside of your cell looks like. And it is called a phospholipid bilayer, okay? When we talk about phospholipid, now lipid means oil. So the outsides of your cells are made of oils, and oils attract oils. So since your cell membrane is made up of oil, and these essential oil molecules are lipid in nature, they're actually invited into the cell. So if you have a water-soluble vitamin or a pharmaceutical medication that's either it's water-soluble, it is not going to be invited into your cells. So let's just look over here, and I just want to give you an indication. Whoops. That I talked about earlier about essential oils are very, very small. Well, apparently they would have to be super small, right, to get through this phospholipid membrane. But it's kind of interesting because gates open and gates close. So gates open to let good stuff out, gates open to let bad stuff or let good stuff in. There's also exhaust products, especially from your mitochondria, and those gates have to open to let those exhaust products out. So that is what your cell membrane does. But when these essential oils molecules are very, very small, look at this like 18-wheeler truck. Think of this as, okay, this is a pharmaceutical medication, the molecules that would be in a pharmaceutical medication. An essential oil molecule, and you know what, that tricycle should probably be smaller than that. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to figure out what it was if I made it any smaller, but think about that. Our essential molecules are super, super, super duper small compared to the molecules in a pharmaceutical medication. So we have forever been told that there's no cure for the common cold, right? There's no cure for the flu. I mean, we can get a vaccination against the flu and it might be 18% effective, but then, oh my goodness, we have 82% of the other viruses that might get us that year with the flu. So what we're talking about with essential oils is such a good way to combat those threats that come against us that get into our cells. So here's the cool thing. Here's my virologist coming back to me, my microbiologist. Viruses replicate by getting into the cell and actually embedding themselves into your DNA, okay? And then what they do is they replicate that viral structure with your own cell structures. They actually, it's like a parasite inside of your cells that's actually using your cellular stuff to make their own babies, right? So that those viruses can then go out and infect more cells. And that's why you're just a little bit sick, and then you're more sick, and then you're more sick, and then you feel cruddy because of that viral replication. But what these essential oils do is they can actually get into the cell, unlike a pharmaceutical medication that can never do that. And they can actually help to, they function to stop the replication of those viruses. They also do it in other ways. You can see the bacteria are usually on the outside of our cells, and they cause cell death that way. Essential oils also help to fight the bacteria that are outside of the cells. Another way they fight, and I don't even have a picture of this, there's actually cell receptor sites. They're like puzzle pieces that are on the outside of your cells, and viruses can actually get into those cell receptor sites, and that's another way that they can get into the cell. And what essential oils can do is they can block those receptor sites to stop those viruses from getting inside of your cell. But just all kinds of fascinating stuff. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how essential oils work in the body, but I just look at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did God think of all this stuff? You know, and he's just kind of letting us in on a lot of these secrets right now. That's why I loved what I was doing as a microbiologist, seeing just those, and I didn't even believe in Jesus at that point, but I was getting to see the smallest parts of who we are as a human and how God created us, and it's just amazing. So just really quick, the differences between fatty oils. So let's talk about corn oil, canola oil, olive oil versus an essential oil. These fatty oils are long-chain heavy acids, so they are going to be very, very big. Not as big as the semi-truck that is a pharmaceutical medication, but they are still like thousands of times bigger than an essential oil will be. Also, fatty oils come from the seeds of the plant. So think about that, coconut, okay? That is a seed. Palm oil, olive oil, corn oil, peanut oil, safflower oil, sunflower seed, canola oil, those are all come from the seed of the plant, and they are going to be greasy, they're going to be heavy, and they're not going to be, they're just going to sit on your skin. They're not going to go through the skin. Essential oils are super small. They are small condensed carbon-based chains or benzene rings. And a benzene ring is they're usually very aromatic when you have that ring structure going on. So these essential oils don't come from the seeds of the plant. There's a few exceptions, but most of them come from the plant material. And you could see these are the various essential oil molecules as opposed to how big and how long those fatty essential oils are. This is super important when we start to talk about mental health and when we start to talk about how essential oils can affect mood and behavior, because we have this amazing God-given barrier called the blood-brain barrier. And what this does is it stops large molecules from actually getting into the brain and gumming up all of the functions that are going on in our brain. So when you have a molecule that's too big, which when you get a antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, those molecules are too big to actually break that blood-brain barrier without actually first being broken down in the liver and made into smaller metabolites. So sometimes those metabolites can be broken down into smaller pieces, but also what that does is when those metabolites break down, they are what cause the side effects from those medications. With essential oils, you are not going to have side effects because these essential oils are already small enough just by breathing them in. Actually, that's the best way to use an emotional oil is simply to put some on your hand, put it in a diffuser and just breathe it in. And with that olfactory nerve, it just breaks that blood-brain barrier and it is immediate reaction simply by smelling an essential oil. The other way that you can do that is to use a mood oil on the back of your neck and actually at that brain stem, and that actually helps it and rub it in just a little bit, and it helps it to get into the circulation and into those areas in the brain as well. So just reading through this, the blood-brain barrier is that natural shield that keeps harmful substances from reaching the brain. If that molecule is too big, it can't pass. So you see this little guy down here telling those molecules, no, you're too highly charged, you're too big, and you're not lipid soluble. So again, lipids, if a molecule is not lipid soluble, it's not going to be able to break that blood-brain barrier. So all essential oils consist of these small molecules that can pass that barrier. Molecules have to be less than, it's 1,000 AMU stands for atomic mass units, and they have to be lipid soluble. Most essential oil molecules are less than 300 atomic mass units. So they are well able to cross that blood-brain barrier. I talked about this a little bit last week, but I think that it stands to have another mention because it is really based on the basic chemistry, like what is a free radical? They really are radical. When we think of a radical, we think of someone that's out to kill and steal and destroy, and that's what these free radicals are in our body. They're out to kill and steal and destroy our health and damage our DNA and make our cells respond incorrectly. So when that cell damage happens that I talked about earlier, that cell death happens, if you don't have proper apoptosis and getting those bad cells out of the body, then some of these cells, actually about 1% to 2% of those cells can turn radical. So the DNA or the cellular material from the breakdown of those cells can turn bad. And what happens with those free radicals is they become unstable, unbalanced molecules, and they want to steal electrons. So they want to go out and steal, kill, and destroy, right? Just like I just said. So this free radical, you can see in nature, everything wants to be balanced. Everything wants to have that nature of being balanced on the outside. And you can see that free radical that wants to have 8 perfect electrons on the outside of that shell, and looking at the bottom of the screen here, only has 7. And it's saying, you know what, I need 8. I want to be good, I want to have 8. And so what an antioxidant does is it goes in and it says, hey, I got more. I can give you one of my electrons. And what it does is it neutralizes that free radical so that it cannot go in and damage your DNA or cause abnormal cell growth or these chronic diseases like cancers and heart disease and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's that are caused by these stress hormones and these free radicals in our body. This is why we need antioxidants, huge in antioxidants. So yes, we can get antioxidants from our food. We can get antioxidants also from essential oils because they are super duper slooper packed with antioxidants. These, you know, our carrots and our blueberries, goji berries, any of those things that you eat that are amazing, your broccoli, you know, because it's high in your antioxidants. There is nothing on the planet that is going to touch how much antioxidant property that you can get in most essential oils. Clove oil is the highest in antioxidant properties. So we've talked about these ORAC Scale, oxygen radical absorption capacity, which means that they'll freely give up that electron and make that free radical not be able to do its job. Clove oil blows anything else out of the oil, out of the water. So this, guys, 1,078,000 on the ORAC scale is from one drop of clove oil. Not one bottle of clove oil, one drop of clove oil in your smoothie in the morning. Put it in your, put it in your oatmeal. Rub On Guard on the bottom of your feet. You know, put it over your heart. This is an amazing way to be able to get those antioxidants into your body. You know, through the food, the supplements that we take. doTERRA has an amazing supplement called DDR Prime. You will never find more antioxidants on the planet than you will in that little tiny pill called DDR Prime, and that helps keep us healthy at the cellular level. But how many of us think about getting our antioxidants by putting it on our skin? We really don't, but this is a brand new way to be able to get those antioxidants into your body. This is kind of an important little slide talking about volatility and viscosity. And some of you may have heard these words before, but when we talk about essential oils and making essential oil blends, this really, really comes in handy. So essential oils are made out of these volatile aromatic compounds that are found in this plant material. The volatility is the ability of a liquid to vaporize or to evaporate. And essential oils, most essential oils are really, really highly volatile, which means they're going to be really fragrant. So if you open a bottle of peppermint on one side of the room, someone on the other side of the room is going to smell it. And I like to think of volatility as like it just explodes. So all of these molecules just explode out of that bottle, and you can smell it very, very fragrant. So it changes from a liquid to a gas state very easily. Roman chamomile is highly volatile. So what this means is if you were to leave the lid off of your Roman chamomile bottle, it would evaporate. I don't know how long it would take it to evaporate, but it would evaporate really quickly, especially as opposed to like vetiver. Vetiver is about the consistency of honey. It's really thick. I use an eyedropper to get mine out because it's almost impossible to get out with the orifice diffuser. But this is going to be, this viscosity is a very thick oil, okay? So volatility is more about the smell, and viscosity is about how thick that oil is. Here's another term, biological half-life. So this is the amount of time that it takes for half of an essential oil to remain fragrant or half of an essential oil to remain therapeutically active. There's also, pharmacists talk about biological half-lives all the time when they're talking about pharmaceutical medications and how quickly they are expelled from the body. But also we can talk about that with essential oils. So thinner oils have a shorter half-life than thick oils. Okay, so let me put this all together for you and tell you what all of this means. Okay, when you have a bigger molecule, like vetiver, okay, it's gonna be a big molecule. It's gonna have a low volatility, which means it's not gonna have a high scent to it. It's gonna have a high viscosity, which means it's gonna be thick. And it's going to have, it's almost like a time-released oil. It's going to have a longer therapeutic length in the body. So the thicker your essential oil, the longer it's going to last in the body. Smaller molecule, high volatility, it's going to have a high scent, It's going to be thin, so it's going to come out of your bottle really easily, but it's going to have a shorter therapeutic value in the body. So it's going to go to work quicker, but it's not going to last as long. Okay, so this is really cool knowledge to know when you are making up your blends. For instance, I have a blend that I make up. It's called the Hammer, the sleep blend. I use this every single night and I love it. And this is why I love the Hammer, is because it helps me get to sleep quickly and it keeps me there. And it's because of the volatility and the viscosity that I know about my essential oils. So the Hammer sleep blend is lavender, which is high viscosity. So it's going to be one of these, or it's low viscosity, sorry. It's going to go to work quickly in the body, but it's not going to last as long. So if you've ever just used lavender on the bottom of your feet and wonder, well, 3 hours later, I'm still waking up. That's why. So now we've got cedarwood and vetiver added into this Hammer sleep blend. So what that does is it helps me get to sleep quickly. And because of those thick oils, it has a longer lasting in the body, and it keeps me asleep longer. So I love this blend. I use clary sage in it because at this point in my life, the hot flashes and stuff like that, so that helps to balance out those hormones. Ylang ylang, kind of same kind of thing, balancing the hormones. And bergamot is super, super sedative as well. So I like using all of those. The Serenity Sleep Blend, doTERRA has already put a lot of those oils in there for us. I just like to make my own stuff up and have my own kind of chemistry experiment that I use there. So I want to let everybody know about the ebooks that are available on your doTERRA website. I think there's at least a dozen of them, everything from beginner essential oils for pets, essential oils for kids. But this ebook is on there for the chemistry of essential oils. If you hover over Our Advocates and then go to Resources, and under Resources, you'll see ebooks. Click on that. You're going to find a whole bunch of ebooks that you can just read through right online. doTERRA gives us so much information all right there for us. And it's there. If you just go to your website, there's a ton of information there. One of the things that's in this ebook and is available also for us to print out if we want to is the chemistry wheel. And your eyes may glaze over as you look at this chemistry wheel, but again, it's super important to know a little bit about the chemistry of your essential oils, because if you go to make a blend and it says use this, 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 and this, and you don't have that, well then you can look on this chemistry wheel and find something that's similar in properties to the oil that you may need to use, and maybe you have that one on hand. So when we're looking at this chemistry wheel, your terpene structure, which is either a monoterpene or a sesquiterpene, those are going to be in the middle, and I'll talk about those on my next slide. But this monoterpene, which is your smaller molecules, has 10 carbons on its backbone, and the sesquiterpene has 15 carbons on its backbone. So these are going to be larger molecules, and these are going to be smaller molecules. And then you have a functional group. So you have your basic monoterpene or your basic sesquiterpene, and then you might have like OH added to it, which means it's an alcohol. Okay, so these esters, these ethers, alcohols, ketones, aldehydes, phenols, those are all the functional groups that are on the essential oils. Not really that you need to know about this, except for the fact that, hey, if you ever run out of vetiver, what's another oil I can use? Okay, so you can go and you can find out about that. Now your chemical constituent, which is really important, and I'm going to talk the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the oils and the chemical constituent that now, remember I said like frankincense has 65 different chemical constituents in it. So different molecules that are in that oil. And then here in this ring on your chemistry wheel, now you have the essential oil names, okay? So you can tell, you know, what the terpene structure is, what the functional group is, what your chemical constituents is, and now what essential oil is going to have those chemical constituents, and now the desired effect that we want from our oils. So you can work from the inside out or the outside in. You can say, you know what, I need a calming oil right now. And you can look at these, well, these are all the calming oils. And this is why, because they have these chemical constituents in them. So I know, again, this kind of makes people's eyes glaze over, but it makes so much sense when we start to look at the power of our essential oils. So categories of essential oils are these key properties. So when this is what you want to happen in your life, just know it's those functional groups that are on the end of those sesquiterpenes or monoterpenes that make this oil either restoring or uplifting or energizing or clarifying, calming, soothing, stabilizing, warming, or harmonizing. So these are the basic categories of essential oils. And when you know what those categories are and what you want to do, what you want to happen in the body, now you know how to go and find that essential oil or an essential oil that's going to be like it, that's going to work for your body. So here are those carbon backbone structures that I talked about, monoterpenes. And this right here is a typical monoterpene. So this is a molecule of linalool. And they're smaller molecules, so they're going to be more volatile. And they are able to penetrate inside of a cell to help you with those cellular properties. When you have a sesquiterpene, it's a 15 carbon atom, so it's going to be a larger molecule. It's going to be less volatile, so it's probably not going to smell it's not going to have a high of a scent to it. And it is going to work on the outside of the cells. Remember I talked about those cell receptors, those surface receptors that aid in cellular communication. So they're all going to work at the cellular level, some of them inside and some of them outside. Now these 8 functional groups, these are things that are added to either your monoterpene or your sesquiterpene to make it very individualized. And again, I look at, oh my gosh, it's got an extra oxygen and a hydrogen on it, and that makes it lavender. I mean, just a simple 1 or 2 elements added into this basic backbone structure that we have here. And God says, you're going to smell like this, and I'm going to add this and this over here, and you're going to smell like frankincense, and it's going to be cinnamon up here because I put cinnamon aldehyde on it. And, you know, it just kind of blows me away to think that these alcohols, these aldehydes, alkenes, ketones, esters, ethers, phenols, and phenylpropenes, these are all those functional groups that makes your essential oil that specific functional function and what it does. And I'm not going to go into each one of these individually. It would just take too long to go through that, because I do really want to get to these individual essential oils and talk about what they do. So limonene is one of those functional groups that's added onto that monoterpene, and these are found in your citrus oils. So your citrus oils are going to clean up your system. Radical scavengers, so they go in and they're going to clean up after you. They promote healthy inflammatory response, and they clean up microbes, healthy cellular function, supports healthy cholesterol and lipolysis, which is really important when we're talking about the breakdown of fats in the body. And they help with the destruction of damaged cells. So these are your custodians, okay? They're going to come in and they're really going to clean up the body. So simply by putting lemon or lime in your water, you're helping to get rid of those toxins and those breakdown products that are in the body. Carvacrol is another functional group found in oregano and thyme and marjoram. So a lot of those herb oils. These are very potent. They're also very hot oils. Anything with a carvacrol in it, you're going to want to dilute before you use it on the skin. They're very, very high in antioxidants. So they're, again, radical scavengers. I love that name. They go out and they scavenge out those radicals that are trying to kill and steal and destroy on the inside. They help. They support healthy cellular function. They're very purifying, antibacterial, antiviral. And they also have a specificity for pathogens. So this is super important. What this means is that they can go in the body and they kill the bad guys, but they leave all the good guys. We have really 5 pounds of our body are bacteria that are good for us, believe it or not. And so when you take an antibiotic, it's broad spectrum, and it's going to kill the good stuff along with the bad stuff. And that's why sometimes you get yeast infections or digestive issues after you take an antibiotic. But when you use an essential oil, it's actually very selective, only to kill the bad stuff, which is really cool. So these are your hunters. Think about this. These are your hunters. They are actually going out and scavenging out those bad things that are that want to make you sick and take you down. The next one is linalool, and this is your nurturer. So this is the restful oils. These are the ones that are going to be very calming to the body. They help to decrease that histamine release in the body, help with times of anxiousness, and they increase dopamine activity, which is your feel-good hormone. And that a lot of times in itself will help to decrease discomfort in the body, also to promote a healthy inflammatory response. So this is going to be your rose. A lot of your flower oils are going to have a linalool in it, but basil is also super high in linalool as well. So it can actually be used for a sleep oil. And then you've got menthol. So this is your peppermint. So peppermint, menthol actually helps to cool the body. It aids in digestion, activation of the natural opiate system, which I love. So this obviously is going to help with pain because it activates your own natural system to help to deal with that. It helps with smooth muscle relaxation. So the smooth muscle is your trachea is going to be smooth muscle, and also the inside of the digestive tract is also smooth muscle. That's just a couple of the areas that you can use peppermint for, and it's going to be really effective. It aids in breathing, proper respiratory response, decreases topical discomfort. It's very purifying, and it's a vasoconstrictor, which means it decreases blood flow. So this is really important when you put peppermint on and it's cooling to the body. And that's because there's not as much blood flow there. It actually starts to cut off that blood flow. So this is your firefighter of essential oils. Anything that's hot in the body, peppermint or a menthol is going to be very good for that. And our last one here that we're going to talk about is eugenol. And eugenol is your warrior. Again, it's going to go out, radical scavenger, high in antioxidants. It protects your DNA. It cleans the body of bad microbes. It's also super anti-tumoral. So any of these oils that you see here are with eugenol in them are going to really go in, and they're going to help to clean up and help your immune system to do what it's supposed to. Very analgesic and also balance to the metabolic system. So in conclusion, just knowing a little bit about essential oil chemistry, and believe me, there's so much more we can go in, but I probably already, blown a few minds out there. I don't know. There's a lot that goes with this. But when we know a little bit about essential oil chemistry, it really does prove, even to the skeptics, but to us, to already know that doTERRA essential oils just flat out work. And they're the best oils on the market, and nothing is going to work like a doTERRA oil. You don't have to be a chemist or a medical professional to use these oils effectively. You don't have to know everything that I just told you. Just use your oils in an effective way. And I also believe that just innately going to your oil box and really, what should I use today, is really a great way to do that, because I think that we have an innate knowledge about what oils we're supposed to be using. Essential oil molecules are small, they're powerful, they're effective, and they're very, very diverse. And that's why one essential oil can do a whole bunch of things, okay? So learning how to use your pure CPTG oils can change your lives and the lives of those that you love. So don't be afraid to use your essential oils. Don't be afraid to make up your own blends and your own mixtures. Don't be afraid to share these essential oils, these beautiful gifts of the earth that God has given us to be able to make somebody else's life better. And know that when you share a doTERRA oil, you do have the best oil with the best chemistry and the best thought behind that oil. That in the integrity of the company makes these the best oils in the world. And don't ever forget that God is amazingly creative. I mean, all of this stuff we just talked about, how can we not say, yes, there's a God? And just to see how everything gets put together. So I'm interested, how are you going to use this new knowledge? How are you going to go out and share with the world in a way that's going to change somebody's life? So I've been so excited to bring this material to you. I thank you all for being here so much tonight, and just to be able to share in this information. I hope that you go out and share with the rest of the world. Okay. Hang on.